Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, May 7, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video so that the YouTube algorithm knows that a lot of people fancy this type of content. There are a lot of weather and rain lovers across Jamaica and the Caribbean. So if you guys like it, it's just gonna, push the video out to more people so that we can increase the amount of subscribers that we have here at Weather Jamaica, and we'll know exactly what the weather is like in all parts of Jamaica. That's what we want to see. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends, your colleagues, your church brethren. Feel free to also subscribe if you haven't, and also feel free to leave a comment down below. Let's see me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather-related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that the entire Atlantic basin is still being dominated by that ridge of high pressure that we know usually sends air around the high pressure in a clockwise fashion. So we know that to the south of the high pressure we have winds pushing from east to west. And we can also see, if we look even closer, the tail end of a cold front that has induced a trough into portions of the northern and eastern Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can actually see the clouds associated with this trough still bring some amount of clouds, showers and thunderstorm activity into portions of Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, sections of Puerto Rico and the Leeward Islands. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on what was predicted in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, May 7. So yesterday's video stated that we would have had some amount of morning rainfall across sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica, and then affecting sections of some eastern, central and western parishes during Tuesday afternoon. And just for reference, we know eastern, central, western parishes we're talking about. Well, for eastern parishes we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, so Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew. For central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, so St. Anne, St. Mary, St. Catherine, Clarendon and Manchester. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, so St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James and Trelawney. And just for reference, we know northern parishes that would have been experiencing the rainfall in the morning would have been those parishes on top, so Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James and Hanover. And what ended up happening? As early as 5:20 a.m. a post was made on our Twitter page at Weather Jamaica. Keep in mind that these posts aren't only made on our Twitter page, but on our Facebook page at Weather Jamaica 876, on our TikTok page at Weather Jamaica, and on our Instagram page at weather.jamaica. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as we make small posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we saw that the first prediction came true. This was 5:20 a.m. as stated, and the rainfall was already affecting sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica at that time. Looked to be sections of Portland and St. Mary, as we can see the greens, even some slight yellows in there that represent light to moderate to even some slightly heavy rainfall. Then what about later on throughout the day? Let us take a look at the next post that was made. So at 2:35 p.m. we saw that the visible satellite images were posted showing clouds building across sections of some eastern, central and western parishes in Jamaica. And if you remember yesterday's video, that was the exact area that was predicted to get rainfall. Northern portions of St. Thomas, southern portions of Portland, northern St. Andrew, southern portions of some northern parishes, and northern portions of some southern parishes in general. So eastern, central, western parishes. And not only that, we definitely saw those sparkling yellow dots in there across section of the island that represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. So that indeed confirms the thunderstorm activity across some spots. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see that the clouds were definitely affecting sections of some central parishes during the afternoon. Even before the sun went down, we saw a cluster of thunderstorms right there across sections of Hanover and St. James, while majority of the clouds are starting to dissipate across the island. And we can see most of the dissipation right now on the latest infrared satellite images that don't show much in the way of cloud cover across Jamaica at all at this hour. Taking a look at the accumulated precipitation from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, we can see that this map is showing all the rainfall that took place across sections of the island today. So the consensus definitely a section of some eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica, section of northern St. Elizabeth gotten some of the action. This map is not 100% accurate, but it does paint a picture of where we actually had that rainfall today. So I guess the predictions actually came true. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can say about 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Wednesday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows and some slight orange colors that represent 1 to 2 to even 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And keep in mind that this map is valid from the GFS for 18Z on Wednesday, that's 1 p.m. on Wednesday. And if we actually take a look at the average temperatures for the month of May across Jamaica, we usually receive up to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 89 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as, well, 31 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 31 to about 33 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Wednesday. As it relates to the dry air map, we can see the dry air is represented by what we see on the key at the bottom, the yellows, oranges, and reds, and what's within those reds getting even more intense the more we go to the right. And we can see that Jamaica should be embedded in some moist air for now into tomorrow, as we see more blues represent that moist air, all courtesy of the troughing taking place across the Caribbean, and we're indeed grateful for that. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, however, we can see that there is indeed some amount of Saharan dust stretching all the way from Africa, as represented by all of these browns, into portions of the central and even western Caribbean. But the thing is, Jamaica is on the edge of it, so we thought that we would have been receiving some. There's definitely some passing by, but most of it is passing by to the south of the island right there, especially where we see those darker shades of browns. That's that vigorous plume that we know can cause some amount of hazy skies, not to mention trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some people. And majority of this should be pushing towards the west. Hopefully it doesn't make it a bit more north to affect us in Jamaica. We don't need any of that right now. Keep in mind that this map is valid for 2 p.m. on Wednesday. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, both of the maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing that we should be receiving those lighter shades of blues to darker shades of blues that represent 0.5 for meter wave heights to 1 meter wave heights. And that's because both the Euro and the GFS maps for the wind forecast are showing those bluish greens and those slightly brighter shades of greens, and they are both coming in from the east on the north coast and on the south coast. And all of that represents anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knot winds, as we can see by the key on the bottom right. And not only that, if we actually take a look at where we have the darker shades of blues, that's usually where we have all of that air piling up. That's where we have all of the clouds building, and then, you know, some cumulus clouds making it up into the mid levels of the atmosphere and forming some amount of rain clouds. And then, who knows, maybe they might even make it up to thunderstorm status, make it up to some cumulonimbus clouds. And then we have those sparkling yellow dots or white dots that indicate thunderstorm activity. So we might get on some of that again tomorrow. And with the upper level winds coming in more so from the west northwest for tomorrow, it could favor more of that afternoon rainfall across section of some southern parishes in Jamaica. So I guess there's another pattern flip. In the weekend it was mainly northern parishes. Now southern parishes seem to be in the mix. And if we take a look at the actual rainfall forecast, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both showing 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 a.m. Jamaica time. And what's the consensus that we see? Some amount of blues that represent rainfall dancing around the island, so across the north and the south, And the thing is, we see that on both the Euro and the GFS malls. So who knows, we might get some amount of isolated shower activity hitting the coastline. Maybe we might not even get anything at all. We'll see exactly what unfolds if persons are up at that time. Skipping ahead now to about 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 11 a.m. Jamaica time. It's quite interesting to see especially these darker shades of blues across sections of northwestern St. Thomas, section of St. Andrew and Kingston. And the thing is, we are seeing this for 11 a.m. on both the Euro and the GFS malls. So we might get some amount of rainfall across section of Kingston, maybe section of St. Andrew, section of southwestern Portland. We'll see exactly what unfolds. I'll definitely be keeping you posted with what's happening at that time for sure. And if we skip ahead now to the final map, excuse me, we can see that these maps are showing 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And what do we see? We see the rainfall represented by the blue colors across sections of some eastern, central, western parishes, but more of the bias across sections of some southern parishes where we see those darker shades of blues. And it makes sense. Both the Euro and the GFS malls are showing all of that rainfall right there to the south of the island. Well, across the southern portion of the island, more so than the north coast. So we're indeed glad for the pattern shift tomorrow. North coast has been getting nailed for the past couple of weeks. Well, past couple of days, sorry. It's time for the south coast to get in on some of the action. We've definitely been missing out, excuse me. Alright, so let us take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast from both the Euro and the GFS malls. They are quite different. The Euro showing less rainfall. Usually it's the Euro showing more rainfall. Euro showing up to 0.49 of an inch of rainfall across sections of the east, including Kingston and St. Andrew. GFS showing up to 0.53 of an inch of rainfall across the same spot. But we see that most of the rainfall should be plaguing sections of central Jamaica. Right there, maybe Manchester up to 0.79 of an inch of rainfall being predicted. Either way, we're indeed grateful. We're in the month of May. We usually receive almost 9 inches of rainfall for the entire month. 1 inch of rainfall represents up to 25 millimeters of rainfall, and we usually get 213 millimeters of rainfall during this month. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get to put some kind of a dent in the drought that we've been experiencing. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have the clouds associated with the trough, bring some amount of overcast sky showers and thunderstorms to sections of the northern Caribbean, to Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbudas. Definitely getting in on the action from the trough induced by the cold front. We can also see, as usual, northern South America getting nailed with some amount of thunderstorm activity for sections of French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, southern and western Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, and even Costa Rica right there. As relates to the Doppler radar images showing that rainfall that we just saw on the visible satellite images for the northeastern Caribbean, we're actually going to be loading these images up. From what time? This is about 3:15 p.m. and we saw that definitely some heavy rainfall was plaguing section of Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands getting in on the action, section of St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, definitely getting in on some amount of rainfall at that time. But what about the latest images? Now we're narrowing down to about this time. So the latest image is as of 9:05 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So that's 3 minutes ago. And we can see that some areas are still getting some amount of rainfall even as we speak. All of those greens and yellows that represent rainfall. Southwestern Puerto Rico, section of eastern Puerto Rico as well, and section of the Leeward Islands. So we're definitely going to be in for some amount of rainfall tonight into tomorrow. And I'm sure those persons who live in those areas are very much grateful for that. Alright, so let us see what's going on with the Barbados radar. We don't see much taking place across Barbados at all. We do see some isolated shower activity pushing from west to east, courtesy of the trough that we mentioned across section of the Leeward Islands. We can also see some amount of rainfall as we just saw on the visible satellite images, affecting sections of western Venezuela, Colombia, section of Guyana, and even Suriname, French Guyana, that is. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, and we see that for the Caribbean, we should be getting anywhere from 1 to at least 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, while the way above normal temperature should be plaguing the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, and sections of the United States, as represented by all of these red colors. Even some blacks in there across sections of Mexico. Alright, so let us take a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Wednesday. We do see that we definitely have some amount of Saharan dust to be plaguing sections of the Caribbean. We can see all of the browns stretching all the way from Africa across the main development region into the Leeward and Windward Islands, definitely making its way westward into portions of Central America. And we see even some darker shades of browns in there that represent that vigorous plume of dust that we know causes some amount of hazy skies, if not, triggering some amount of respiratory illnesses in some people, from asthma to sinusitis, and we don't want that. So we know we have to take our medication and probably even wear a mask to prevent all of that dust from affecting us. Excuse me. Taking a look at the wave forecast, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS models are showing those lighter shades of blues to darker shades of blues that we can see by the key on the bottom right that represents 0.5 for meter wave heights to 1.5 meter wave heights. And that's because the winds are not going to be that strong at all, seeing a mixture of those bluish greens that represent anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knots that we see on the key on the bottom right. And we also see the average direction for everywhere across the Caribbean, coming in from the east, curving to the northwest as we head into the western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. As relates to the rainfall forecast now, this is the meat of the matter. This is why we're here. We can see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with where it's going to be raining tomorrow. Keep in mind that these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. Not saying that's going to be raining from now all the way up until then. If they're not already getting that rainfall right now, there's still more to come. And these are the spots. So sections of Cuba, section of the southern Bahamas, Jamaica, section of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, section of St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, section of Guadeloupe getting in on the action as well. Even if we skip southward, we can see some amount of rainfall affecting sections of northern South America and even Central America. We see that rainfall affecting sections of French Guyana, Suriname, Guyana, southern Venezuela, sections of Colombia, Panama, and even Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and El Salvador getting in on some amount of rainfall as we speak. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. And we know that when they're in consensus with this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.